heartfelt press conference jana. Yani Watanzania wanajua kufinya watu hivyo.
When you are a friend to Boni or Agatha and we interacted with them, or if you are the same person that has gone through such a scenario, you wouldn't be laughing about it. And I don't know, sijui kama ni standard operating procedure among Swahili speakers, because I think it's something that they have normalized to do. You know, remember what happened to the blogger in Mombasa, the one that allegedly insulted the governor's mother.
Correct.
And it's something, as a man, mtu akikuingiza vidole ama kitu huko in your behind, it's something that you get to live with for the rest of your life.
You never forget it.
I admire Boni's strength and Boni's courage to speak about it, because any other man will not speak about it. That's something you carry with shame
to your grave.
To your grave, actually. It's a sad scenario, and for that to have happened, and for the country, for the leadership, for the top leadership of the country to have just kept quiet and assumed everything is normal, it's something. That's the worst thing, the worst form of abuse that you can get as a human.
And humiliation. So,
and I understand why he had to take some time before he came out to speak, because these are not things you can come from them and then just come and speak about them. We have had a problem with the previous abductions and tortures, where people go in, they come out and their mom, no one speaks about what happens.
Correct.
We have so many cases that have happened, people being abducted, taken MIA, and then when they come out, we never hear what they went through.
Correct.
Could be these are some of the things most of them go through, but for lack of courage, like the one exhibited by Boniface Mwangi, they never get to speak about it. Or maybe the threats that follow it after the event, I'm imagining the kinds of threats they gave them, that if you open your mouth, this and this will happen to you. And now I imagine the kind of risk the two have even put themselves in more, because they mentioned the names. And with what has been happening, the collaboration between the agencies, security agencies, between the countries, East African countries, if they can come for BCJ from within Kenya, if they can come for that activist the Tanzanian activist who was abducted, but later on rescued by the noise made around the country, you can imagine these are people who can sneak back because they have been mentioned, and get back at Kena Boniface Mwangi. We just pray that their security is enhanced and that they be on the alert, because a likelihood of them coming for them because of the mentions is very high.
I personally visited Boniface Mwangi at the hospital. I was with him at Nairobi Hospital. One Saturday we spent a lot of time together with him and his family. His wife was there. And as we speak about Boniface Mwangi, I want to be the first to go on national TV to celebrate the wife Njeri. Boniface Mwangi's wife has been a pillar, and I hope very many people can learn from her. She has stood with that man. That guy has been to police cells so many times. There are many times when Boni has been missing, and I've known this family for a long time, very many years, more than 10 years now. So we've been family friends. I have seen them from when they got their firstborn. And I want to take this opportunity as we speak about Boniface Mwangi to also speak about the wife, because the wife is going through so much. You can imagine those who are horrific 4 days when she didn't know where the husband was, when she was called, and they narrated to me at hospital how they had to find a way to fly to Mombasa, because they were put at that Honolulu border near where you have to cross the ferry to get to this other side. And the challenge was, how do you hide Boniface Mwangi? Ameachwa midnight, then you have to wait for morning, then you have to move him. How they had to move Boniface Mwangi to a friend's house in Mombasa, and then how they had to put him on a plane to Nairobi and straight to Nairobi Hospital, and how the family has had, in fact, you see, this is a fight that he's fighting for the region, when you look at it that way, and how that has been a bill to the family itself. In fact, very many people have not been able to come and chip in and contribute towards his medical fund, but there was quite a bill at the hospital. So it's been a personal journey that they have had to go through. But what are his legal options? One, a case can be filed here in our courts.
Against who?
A case can be filed here because what you need to do is to raise that matter. In fact, file a petition in Parliament so that Parliament can petition the Tanzanian government to do something about it.
Which parliament?
Number 2,
Kenyan parliament.
sasa hii shida sasa ile bunge iko hapa hata sijui ni aina gani. Now another option he has is that Boniface Mwangi can there's the African Court of Justice. Unfortunately, even the East African Court of Justice is stationed in Arusha. If they were to file a petition in Tanzania, the Tanzanian justice system is where we were. You know, the judges are appointed by Samia Suluhu. That's where we were very many years ago. So it's not going to go far because they can enter nolle prosequi. You remember Zile's you know, it's a no case.
Yeah.
But the good thing is the amount of discomfort it brings when you file it in Tanzania. And I think that's what we need to do. We file a petition in Tanzania under Section 16 of the Tanzanian Penal Code, and we go there and we make a lot of noise. That discomfort is what Tanzania needs. Because shame on them. The fact that Kenyans have been highlighting their issues, and every time Kenyans highlight the problem we have with Tanzania, what do? They go online and start saying, Jeshi Kali la Tanzania. They start displaying to us men with archaic weapons in a war that we are fighting online about them needing to change their law. So this thing of thinking that everything can be solved by military might and by, you know, policemen and brute force is the nonsense that we do not want in East Africa. So for Boni Mwangi, we empathize with you. We stand with you. I visited him in hospital. I intend to visit him at home and the family. And I tell every other Kenyan, put them in your prayer. But most importantly, let us also think about the person of Njeri, the wife who has gone through so much trauma, who has been a very strong pillar of support, and I want to celebrate her as one Kenyan that as we speak about Boniface Mwangi, let us also remember the wife who has been a very, very wonderful person.
And Abuya, let's not forget the Ugandan activist as well, huh?
Agatha has also gone through a lot. And I heard her yesterday saying at least Kenyan government tried to pretend that they care. You know, I think Museveni was saying, you know, was thinking that you just finish her there. You need to lay stress, headache, and kulanga pa kila siku. And for Agatha to say what she also went through, you know, is very tunasemanga, you know, Jeff rape is not an easy thing to go through. And I really admire the life of activists, because I doubt I can go through what Boni has gone through and be as strong as he is today. I doubt I can go through what Agatha has gone through and be as strong as she is today, because they put their lives on the line each and every day, and they don't just speak for themselves, they speak for the downtrodden, you know, for that person that, like for today now, about the online blogger who was arrested. Boni was there yesterday, and I was wondering, Boni, you just went through hell the other day. Why are you still on the streets?
Yeah.
But he's still there. You know, he's still fighting for the rights of that lady who is Njeri, who has been held in Communicado since, I don't know, Thursday or Wednesday.
Because of the website she created.
A mere simple website. And government keeps telling us about public participation. That is the perfect way of doing public participation. Why would you arrest somebody for trying to do public participation? And so the life of an activist, I would really want to, you know, it's not an easy life to live.
Activists and the civil society have borne the brand, you know. They have been the people that the state has used to demonstrate how they can deal with anyone who goes against the books, who does not go by the books as should be. So yes, the rights of Kenyans keep diminishing every other day. We keep saying the law is very clear, but when it gets to this point, the law is very unclear, and it is very unfortunate. We just hope that sometimes I pray that we have, you know, this is now a calling. Obuya says he does not understand how you can go through that, and then the following day you are out with crutches and those special boots that he is putting on, fighting for another person who is going through almost a similar situation.
Correct.
It needs a calling. This one is a calling. This one you cannot say it is motivated by anything kama vile ya siasa, you know. And if we get if only we would get people who have callings in these positions of power maybe we will not be talking about people infringing on Kenyans' rights and freedoms, you know.
All you need to do is to paint an analogy of what that apology means. We wake up as Kenyans, we entrust our whole farmland. Like, you know, like a family says, you know, we've entrusted one farmer with 20 acres of our land. Go till that land, produce food for us. The farmer goes, brings bad fertilizer, bad seed, bad everything, does not cultivate, does a horrible job. At the time of harvest, he gives us a poisonous crop that is not even enough. Now, first is, if our children eat, they die. If we don't eat, we are doomed. There is no food for us, there's no food for animals, there's no food for everything. And then he comes and tells you, if I have wronged you, I am sorry. Now that apology does not fix the fact that people are going through hunger. Doesn't fix the fact that we do not have food for our animals. It doesn't fix the fact that we have given us a poisonous crop and that you have been careless. All you are doing is saying, if I have wronged you. But you're not telling us now the fact that we entrusted you with this land to till for us and give us food. What are we going to do between now and the next planting season and the next harvesting season? So that apology is useless, to say the least. Because you are telling us, if I have wronged you, I am sorry. Leadership does not start with an apology. Leadership begins where the apology ends. So the minute you say sorry, that's where leadership begins. What we should have seen by now is, who are these guys who are so holy, who captured our young people and tortured them and mistreated them and took them away, that have not been arrested? What do you mean you are sorry if no single perpetrator of injustice has been arrested? Yani sahi munashika governor natembea na sisemi asishikwe, but the people who abducted our young people, none of them has been arrested, and you're saying you want an apology. Take it back. We don't need your apology. We refuse to accept that apology because it is not an apology. It is an insult to Kenyans. An apology is, I am sorry. And because I am sorry, I am head of state and in charge of all the organs of state. I will make sure that you will begin to see men in court tomorrow for having abducted your young people. But you cannot have a BBC documentary showing us a man shooting a young person, and then the person who is arrested is the guy who shot the documentary, not the guy who shot the young person on the street. So you ask yourself, what nonsense of an apology is this? In the face of Kenyans, you're just urinating on us and telling us it's raining.
An apology should be, okay, you've done something, you acknowledge that this is what I've done. But once you don't acknowledge that you've done a mistake, that's not an apology, because you're letting the person who you're apologizing to afikiria ajue alinikosea kweli, kama amenikosea basi msamaha. It doesn't it wasn't an apology, and I think he was actually forced into making that apology because he was in a church in court. So after the pastor did whatever he did, and then because he's a God-fearing president, he had to make that apology, and he said, if nimekosea, we are sorry. But like Fanyamambo says, so assuming it was an apology, assuming that he was genuine in giving his apology, so what next? What next? What does Rex's mother think, or what does she get?
Yeah.
Because there are families who are missing their people. There are families who buried their kin. There are families who still don't know where their people are. There are families who relatives are maimed from those Gen Z demos. And what was their crime? To come out and agitate for their rights. What is provided for in the Constitution? And so for the president to have made that apology, he needs to then take it further. Then I say, we have made that. I acknowledge that we were wrong in doing ABCD. Now that we were wrong, let me, we start compensating, like Raila suggests. Maybe we make sure that they get justice. If there was a policeman who was seen shooting, let him face the law. And we are not saying that just go through the processes. Let justice be seen to be done.
Yeah.
For the president to use that prayer meeting to purport to apologize and not do the needful, that is talking about plans on how to deal with those that did that, and how to compensate whoever was injured and those that lost their lives. And then he has to be reminded on a national event like Madaraka that an apology and only is not enough. You need to go beyond and compensate by Raila Odinga. You know, that tells you about a leadership that sits and says, okay, script one is we will purport to apologize, and then so that people know that you are still on their side, and we maintain the tempo. Script two, you go say, keep pushing the narrative of compensation, but we both know there's nowhere this all push is going. After Madaraka Day, have we had any of the lead of the administration leaders, people in the administration, speak about the action plan on what Raila said on compensation?
Nothing.
If it was to be taken any serious from Raila's perspective or from Ruto's perspective, right now would be having people who are saying, okay, we have heard that this we need to do. And you know, he spoke before the president. I would imagine kwa ile Kiswahili yake, kwa sababu kwa speech of course haingekuwa ndani. When he is now done with his official speech, when he's ad-libbing, I was imagining he would mention there something like, okay, we have heard and this is what we are going to do. To date, no one can tell you what action plan they have on that particular push of compensation and things to do around what Gen Zs went through.
Madaraka Day. You know, I saw people spending a night in a stadium.
You saw that?
Yes, they spent the night in the stadium. And people started saying what politicians wanted them to say. And I want us as Kenyans to have a conversation. Politicians wanted you to come and say, hawa wajaluo wako hivi wanalala kwa stadium. They wanted us to speak of those people as Luos, and for us to start painting that there's a difference between Luos and other Kenyans, so that what they have always wanted to perpetuate the tribal card to start working in 2027. I have news for them, and it's not good news for them. What people need to do is to see that what was happening to those people in the stadium is they had been promised money, and whoever gets a seat will get a place and will get some money. And so they went there so that they are found to be sitting. What is the difference between those people who spent a night in the stadium and our people from Kabete, which used to be said was one of the richest constituencies some time back, who are made to sit from morning to evening, mpatue mbosho jioni na shilingi 500. Kwanza ni maharagwe yenye haivi. Those beans I don't know walitoa wapi haivi. So what they have done is to make sure that there's a systemic dehumanization of our people. They make sure that you people are so poor. They make sure that you people have been so impoverished, you have nothing. That way they can put you in a stadium the whole day, in the scorching sun, and parade you and talk to you UDA rubbish the whole day. And then in the evening they give you 500 shillings and a bag of beans. So the people of Nyanza, we are sorry. Anybody who ever called you ati majaluo hawana tabia, we are sorry, because Kenyans who did that don't know what they were doing. The truth is, there is no difference between yourselves and our people here in Kabete who are being kept in the scorching sun the whole day. There are only two tribes in this country, and those are the two tribes that must go into the election, the rich and the poor. If you today you go to Korogosho Primary School or a school in Kibra, there is no child of a Luya, a Kamba, a Kisi, a Kipsigis. There is no child of that. They are poor children who walk to school together and share bread at lunchtime. When you go to an international school here, where parents are paying 500,000 shillings, some even up to 1 million shillings, and some landing in helicopters, there is no child of a Kalenjin, there is no child of a Kikuyu, there is no child of a Masai. We have children of the rich in prestigious schools. So I want to remind Kenyans that at the time when we had the Gen Z protests, our agenda had become clear and our politicians were afraid, because they were used to tribal mobilizations. They were used to saying the Luyas will vote like this, the Kisis will vote like this, the Luos and the Kikuyus will vote like this. And Gen Zs had managed to create a very new narrative of saying we are tribeless. And the political class was worried, because they had always planned around the tribes. What they have been doing over the last few months is trying to bring us back to the tribal narrative. Na kama wewe ni Gen Z na umeshaanza kuingia kwa mitandao kusema Wakikuyu wako hivi, Wajaluo wako hivi, Wakamba wako hivi, shame on you. Go back to factory settings. If you're a young person and you had started speaking that narrative, which is what they want us to speak, go back to factory settings. That this country can have gone to where we wanted to be, issue-based politics. So to the people of Nyanza, mimi hata sioni makosa walifanya. They are just people who belong to that tribe of poor people. And those poor people are in Nyanza, they're in Kabete. You saw them even in Kisii, Silvano Osoro's constituency. Those guys were put in the sun for a whole day. They were told so much rubbish. And if you want to know people are poor, even our members of parliament are poor. Can you imagine Farouk is parading members of parliament? And telling them, where dance to one, where dance, like children. And they shame on those members of parliament. In fact, their constituents should tell, kwani wewe si mwanaume enough? Yaani mwanaume mwingine anakuambia usimame udance mbele ya watu.
Nataka pesa.
That is what I'm saying. That our people have been so impoverished that he's a guy who holds no public office. He's doing harambes every day he has money. He's even telling elected members of parliament to dance for them to see. That's where we've gotten to as a country. So the people of Homa Bay, we are sorry. And those people who've taken that tribal card, shame on you. Go back to factory settings. We had said 2027 is agenda-based. Musikubali ujinga ya kupelekwa kwa ukabila.
You are so poor so that when you are told kuja hapa, you run because you are going, you know, you wanaitwa hoipoloi, the commoners. Yani hako tu, there's this, the ruling class who wants to load it on the commoners, and they are loading it, and they have to make sure that you are so poor such that when they give you a check of 3,000 shillings as bursary, you say hallelujah, Mungu ni Bwana. When they tell you wanna come to the stadium, the president is going to be there, they might not even give you any coin, but just for the fact that you are going to see your president, you know, it becomes such a big deal. And so you have to go and run and sleep there from 11 p.m. to paka 3 p.m. the following day. It's just, we have, you know, they are loading it, the ruling class is loading it on us, on the commoners, and that's what they want. They want you to be as poor as you can be, so that when they give you a t-shirt imeandikwa Jeff 2027, unasema bas, at least nimepata nguo, unaenda kupiga hiyo kura. They give it, Ruto alikuwa anaonyesha kura alisimama nayo 2017. There was t-shirt alipeana mtu alikuwa nayo from 2017, baada yako nayo today. Anaonanga
8 years later.
Yes. At least Ruto alinipatia t-shirt. That's what the ruling class wants us to feel. Yani, you are so desperate, and I've said this, Jeff, on this show over more than one time, actually more than 3 times, that in our language we say somebody that is feeding you can snap your mother as you watch, and you will do nothing.
Sema kwa kilugha.
Sema kwa kilugha.
Huko lisia akuya maono lola. You know,
we saw Baba and the president taking very beautiful photos on the beaches of Homa Bay and stuff like that. Now they also love the optics in numbers, and that is what they exactly got in Homa Bay, and that helps them sell whatever Fanyamambo has spoken about. You see, you cannot tell me that those guys in Homa Bay love the president so much, that love the broad-based government arrangement so much, that love Raila so much, that they would get into the stadium to book a seat at 9 for a function that will end at 4-5 the following day. It is not true. The only explanation is, like Fanyamambo says, they were promised something.
Sure.
And people almost broke their necks. People were crawling over the walls of Raila Odinga Stadium to book a spot, just because in the interviews that we were doing along the day, people were saying tuliambiwa tutapewa chakula. They were even promised food for the night. Those that were locked outside were complaining how now they will miss on the food that they were promised, because they're out, they have not been allowed inside the stadium. You can tell there was a lot of promise to get people come out in droves to paint this picture of a loved broad-based government, a loved marriage between ODM and UDA. Unfortunately, it boils down to embarrassing and shaming our people in terms of hawana kitu cha kufanya, as in, you know, you're being portrayed as people who have nothing to do, idlers. You can afford almost 12 hours sitting there doing nothing, listening to empty promises from leaders that I saw them being paraded as no term, one term, and half term. You know, listening to all these lies.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they do their postmortem saying how Homa Bay was kind. They a lot of their captions on their social media accounts and online platforms, they were thanking Homa Bay for the show of love.
Luo Nyanza has become the bedroom of President William Ruto in going to 2027. Actually, if it continues like this, I foresee him getting a higher percentage in Luo Nyanza than even in Rift Valley, vote-wise, because shemeji zetu akikupenda amekupenda, na wakikuchukia pia watakuonyesha they don't like you.
Yeah.
They don't. And for now, I think with what Baba has done, I think they are wako kwa serikali ndani kabisa, inside. And so in terms of votes, I think President Ruto is counting on Luo Nyanza to get the highest percentage of votes, even more than his native Rift Valley, because the Rift Valley there are lots and lots of other tribes that might not be very pro-government. You know, Fanyambo says we shouldn't do tribal arithmetics here and there, but it might change. I hope it changes, but as in 2027, I think people are still going to do tribal politics. Kisiwa atapiga wapi kura, Walio atapiga wapi, Wakikuyu atapiga wapi. As of now, I think Luo Nyanza is with President William Ruto.
That in Mount Kenya you go where the people are. In Mount Kenya you don't lead your people, you go where they are. And right now the people, even Ricky G joined people where they were. People were anti-Ruto. So when he joined them and he came as a strong force, people were very happy with him. So Cecily Mbarire has got no choice. If she wants to be re-elected, she has got no choice but to go towards the direction of Wamonyoro. But there's this thing that people have been telling us, and I want us to deal with it once and for all. People have been telling us, oh, mnashinda mkisema ati Ruto must go one term, you have no agenda, who is your presidential candidate? Now I want to answer them today and tell them, when you find someone who is going through a divorce, you don't start asking them, who are you going to marry next? Leave us alone. We are going through a divorce. It's a painful divorce. We shall decide whether we are going to marry and who we are going to marry later. For now, we know whom we don't want. We know who we are divorcing. We know the husband who's mistreated us. So people coming telling you, oh, you keep saying here, you're going to leave William Ruto, who are you going to vote? Is that your business? If I am going through a divorce, don't ask me who I'm going to marry next. This is a divorce. It's messy. It's painful. We are going through it. Let us heal through the divorce. As after next year, I will come and tell you who we are marrying if we must marry. But you can't come here and start telling us, oh, so you're not going to divorce me because you can't get a man. Let me tell you, if you go to Langata Cemetery, it's full of so many macho men who used to say you can't touch. Walikufa wamezikwa Langata, and their wives are here going with Bentens. So don't come and tell us that nobody can touch. I don't know. There's nobody better than yourself. When you speak to the cemetery, it is full of so many people who thought they were so irreplaceable in so many other ways. So our people are going through a divorce. At least we know the husband we don't want. Stop asking us who we are going to marry. We will tell you who we are going to marry when that time comes. But at least we know who we don't want.
Oh yeah.
Unaweza sema one term na president anacheka, anasema mnasema one term, anasema kazi bila break, unasema Kasongo anaweka song ya Kasongo, dances weka Kasongo ana dance, mnasema sijui Kawongo, anasema nani, you know that's Zakayo, you know, that's the beauty of our democracy. And we should actually, as much as we differ on which side we stand on, which side of the ideas we are on, either Kasongo or Mwamunyoro or Natembea or whatever, we should just celebrate that we have that space of doing what we are doing, because in other countries you would never hear this. I don't know the opposition leader of Rwanda. I don't know. I don't know the opposition leader of Tanzania. Tundu Lissu is now in
battling court cases.
Battling court cases. When Kianguli akijaribu kutoa kichwa hivi Museveni anagonga inaenda chini. And so we should celebrate our democracy, and we should never allow somebody to take us back to where we come from.
That is a problem.
We should never allow.
The opposition leader in Rwanda is unknown. The opposition leader in Somalia is unknown. But the opposition leader in Kenya is in government. That's a big irony. Because then we have to ask ourselves, at what point do we say also there's a fine line between democracy and mannerlessness? Because we can't have all those opposition leaders in jail, which is not the place they're supposed to be, and then we have our opposition leader in government. So that is the irony between Kenya and the rest of the countries around us. Something has to be thought out. Spoke about him going to Karen, and no, honestly, he thought. Now,
I mean, Karen, the neighborhood,
the castle, whatever. He was confused a bit. But now they took him to anti-stock theft, and I had thought he would resign. But you know, stock is animals, and animals in Kikuyu is what?
Nyamo.
So he's still at home. So I don't see Samido resigning because they have removed him from home.
Yes, Karen, from Karen to
they have taken him to animals, which in Kikuyu is Nyamo. So Samido is still at home. And lastly, I must celebrate Ngemi. I have seen there is this culture now, Ngemi 4.0, where the Kikuyu nation has been united in something cultural and beautiful. For the first time, we see something beautiful that we can celebrate. That, you know, our young people can meet and celebrate their culture. Na hakuna mtu alibiwa simu.
I foresee that there won't be a fifth one. It will be banned because you can't be going there and singing Anthem.
But people are singing it in the UK. Did you see what's happening in the UK?
You can't be going there.
One time it's being sung even in the US.
I doubt if majority leader will allow such a thing.
Right.
I think majority leader will tell Murkomen